Hey guys! So this video is one of the most important videos I'll make on the subject of discus. Because discus are one of those fish that we want to be perfectly round, perfectly big, chunky, happy, and eating a lot. But oftentimes we also discover that discus are extremely sensitive fish. They're very easy to stress and they're very easy to stunt. Now, the word stunting, what does it mean? Stunting is basically stunting their growth and development, meaning the discus will not reach its full potential or will slow down in reaching its full potential. And oftentimes, you can't really help them once they pass a certain point in life and they have not reached a development, meaning you will probably get a triangular discus instead of a round one. But I did manage to unstunt a couple of my discus, or to buy mostly stunted discus and making proper fish out of them. So number one cause of a discus stunting is not feeding enough. When they don't eat enough, they do not grow fast enough. Or if you feed them the wrong stuff, meaning cheap food or very little of it. Growing discus is kind of around the clock type of thing where you can't just feed them once every couple of days and expect them to grow in big magnificent beasts. It just doesn't work like that. That's why a lot of people just give up or starve them to death and just say discus is too hard to keep and we don't want to do that. But what can you actually do if you're really dedicated to your discus and you want them to grow round, beautiful, and healthy? Now, you're probably looking at my tank and being like, girl, what are you talking about? Your discus are ugly and not round. Well, half of my discus are actually wild-caught discus, so there's nothing much I can do about that except fatten them up and make them round. The other ones partly have genetic traits that make them not super round. Common discus, unless they're a very expensive strain, will have this little itty-bitty tip nose. But don't necessarily mistaken their shape of the face with stunting. You always have to compare the eye ratio versus the body. If they have a small size eye and a big body, you're doing good. If you have a very big eye on a very small head, you might want to revisit that. So an example of a stunted discus, I don't have that many stunted discus, but this one would match it more than the others. Let's just look at his body versus his eye. You see how big his eye is versus his body? This one is pretty stunted. And he's pretty far in his development, so there's not much I can do about it. Now, on the other hand, the one next to him is a wild discus that lost a ton of weight due to bullying in my tank from his other wild mates, but still his eye to body ratio is much better. And he's on the road of recovery and regaining weight, and as you can compare now, his colors are coming back, he's no longer black, and he's doing better. A good example of non-stunted common discus is this yellow guy and the big guy next to him. They're pretty damn round. So I'm not just here to show off my discus, I'm here to tell you how to unstunt your discus or prevent discus stunting. And I've been doing discus for quite a few years, so I kind of have experimented every damn thing. Now get ready because just getting discus to a nice shape and size, never mind of their actual body shape, is a lot of elbow grease. Now to get them super round and beautiful, that's extra elbow grease. Are you ready? Alright, so number one cause of discus stunting, like I said, is not enough feeding. So it's either you're not feeding enough or they have parasites, because discus, being very stressed fish, end up catching all sorts of parasites. So number one, you should make sure they don't have parasites by deworming them. I like to use Prasipro. It's pretty easy on them. Also flubendazole if you really see signs of parasites, which oftentimes you would see white feces coming out. Now let's show you proper feces versus white feces. Proper feces, okay, they should be brown. If it's white, something's wrong with them. Sometimes they will have whitish feces and just like a small string, but that would result out of like more starvation than actual parasites. But if you see like a full belly and white poop, like chunky white poop, they got parasites. Also, if you see strings of red, like little veins coming out of their anus, that is also a parasite called calamanus. So you gotta treat that one with levamisole. But before you treat them, just assess them. If they're really, really stressed and you just got them, turn off the lights and let your discus rest for 3 to 5 days. You don't need to force them to eat. They can go weeks without eating. You just need to unstress them, because a stressed fish not only will not eat, but will be prone to catching any bugs in your aquarium. A strong fish will be resistant and not catch a thing. So turn off the lights, cover the tank if you must, but let them still see you a little bit just so they know what's their surroundings. After a few days, open up the lights slightly, don't make too much noise. They don't like to be in aquariums that are ground level, meaning if they see your feet walk all day, that's not ideal for them. They should be like more at the waist level, just like this aquarium, which is a 90-gallon at the waist level. And after 3 to 5 days, start offering some food. I suggest starting them on frozen food, everything but bloodworms. Okay, I already covered the bloodworms in previous videos. Some will argue me till death about bloodworms giving them parasites, but avoid bloodworms and tubifex worms. Tubifex worms. These two, I don't suggest, I don't recommend, unless you're breeding them yourself and do pathology tests on the live cultures. Don't get into this. Try more brine shrimp, krill, and other frozen foods like that. You can also make your own frozen food based on my recipes and my do-it-yourself playlist. I have, I think, 2 videos on how to make frozen fish food, so try that. So when you have them eating at least once or twice a day on frozen food, that don't forget to rinse if it is commercial, because most frozen foods are frozen in nitrate. Well then, if they start eating well, start feeding them more. I feed mine up to 6 to 8 times a day. Sometimes when I want them to really buff up, like this guy, I throw food in front of him about 6 to 8 times a day. And like a few weeks ago, he was all black and refused to eat, and now he's going to eat again. There's food there at the bottom, he's going to peck at it. So with a lot of feeding comes a lot of filtration, guys. You will need top-notch filtration, something double or triple or quadruple the capacity of your aquarium. And I recommend more than 1 filter so you can alternate the cleanings. You say 1 month this one, 1 month that one, and that way their good life bacteria is not impacted as much. I also suggest the use of carbon and zeolite inside your filters to prevent nitrate and organic waste from accumulating. It's all going to get absorbed by the carbon, and zeolite, that just basically absorbs ammonia if you ever were to have any. Also, I suggest a bubbler. As you can see, I have a sponge filter right there. It prevents, also nitrate, it filters well, it's gentle. And we have this one. This one, honestly, I don't recommend, but I set it in a manner that it would not basically have a direct flow at the fish. We'll come around and I'll show you what I mean. So you see the flow hits the glass, and the other one right behind it hits the wall. Discus get extremely stressed with direct heavy flow. They do not like to swim in heavy flow. They're peaceful water fish. Now they will resist flow if you put flow, but they'll go and hiding. So if you don't want your discus to be stressed and hiding and catching all sorts of parasites as a result of that, don't have high flow. Make it nice, gentle spring type waters, just very gentle but strong filtration, and not aimed directly at them. I like to divert my filtration onto a glass panel of the aquarium or something not directly in the middle. So a lot of filtration. Also, along with good filtration, you could set up an aquaponics sump, basically biomedia and plants on the very top, and water flowing through it. Plants on the top will always absorb nitrates. I will actually switch to my other aquarium to show you a better representation of an aquaponics sump. In here you have filter floss and you have biomedium and you have a ton of plants just growing out of it. That's my other South American aquarium. But filtration only will not cut it, because you will be feeding a ton guys, like 6 to 8 times a day. If you really need to work on your fish on stunting itself, you will also need to do water changes, a ton of water changes. The only way I was able to get these wild guys going and eating and relaxed, as you can see, super freaking relaxed, is by doing water changes daily. I know it sucks, doesn't it? I told you, it's hard work, it's elbow grease having Discus. Daily water changes of 30 to 40%. If you have amazing water, you can go up to 50. More than 50 kind of stresses them to see the water level decrease that much. But from 10 to 50%, whatever you can do. Also depending how many you have in an aquarium. If that was 8 tiny ones, I'd be okay with 10%. But those are kind of giants. So as you can see, they're about 5 to 6 inches, some of them. So no messing around, we have to water change them. I like to also use a product called, I came close to the camera, Safe. If you're using tap water, that one is absolutely amazing. It's like Prime but on steroids and in the dry version. So it kind of doesn't expire as fast and you have a lot more of it. 1/4 of a teaspoon treats 300 gallons of normal water and 75 of ammonia water. So I recommend using Safe or reverse osmosis water. Do not forget to remineralize. If you do use reverse osmosis, you better remineralize and to the same percentage. Usually you can use RO right, R/O right. That's a remineralizing liquid, and you just add it before you add it into your aquarium. Because without minerals in the water, they could develop deficiencies, and that could lead them to hole in the head disease, which is debated to be hexameter parasite, but also could be led by very poor water quality or lack of minerals in the water. Pick and choose which one it is. We still don't know exactly what it is. But as I said, low minerals in water is not very good for fish. But too high is also not good for Discus. So, hey, welcome to the wonderful world of Discus. And you're forever taking care of them. So, those are my tips to unstunt your Discus. No stress, no parasites, ton of food, ton of filtration, daily water changes, and once you see that they have reached a nice chunky size, for example, this one, for example, that one, I hope you can see how fat he got. Like he can barely breathe, he ate so much today. For example, this one that never stops eating, or this little guy. Once you reach a proper size for your Discus and you see that they're nice and chunky, you can do water changes once a week. You can feed them twice a day, once a day. You'll see basically by their shape. But Discus have, because of the shape of their body, right? They have very, I'm sorry, I just moved the camera. They have very narrow stomachs also inside. So they're not power feeding fish like an Oscar would just like gobble a huge fish. No, they're like natural daily grazers, and they naturally in the wild pick on small invertebrates and algae. So it's recommended to feed many times a day, small quantities. Or what I like to do is use a cone, a feeding cone, hang it up, and just put some food in there and replenish it once it's empty. But you have to also keep note that the food can rot in it if it's not consumed fast enough. So don't leave like a bunch of unfrozen brine shrimp in a cone all day. That will result in very poor water quality. But if it's to be done for an hour or so, or you're hanging up a shrimp in the aquarium for an hour, that should be fine. Just if it's uneaten or it's getting like nasty, remove it please. Make sure not to poison your fish, because your fish are very sensitive to water quality. Alright guys, for any questions, don't forget to just write it in comments below. I try to answer to every one of you, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for my latest notifications. Alright, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.